Long before European ships dropped anchor on its shores, India operated as a global economic superpower. Its ports overflowed with highly sought-after spices, fine cotton textiles, silk, gems, and uniquely forged steel. All of that trade generated tremendous, concentrated wealth. By the 15th century, that wealth acted as a powerful magnet, drawing European powers eager to secure new trade routes and massive profits. The Portuguese arrived first in 1498. They aggressively seized control of the sea routes, forcing any ship traveling through their waters to purchase a specific pass, known as a cartaz. The Dutch followed shortly after to capture the spice trade, but their momentum broke when Indian King Marthanda Varma decisively defeated their forces at the Battle of Colonial in 1741. Then came the French. They attempted to build their own empire by establishing fortified trading centers, like this bright yellow administrative headquarters in Pondicherry, though they ultimately struggled to maintain total dominance. The power that eventually eclipsed them all operated as a massive corporate entity, the British East India Company. A single foreign trading company managed to conquer an entire subcontinent. They accomplished this through a highly calculated playbook of political manipulation and legal exploitation, minimizing the need for outright warfare. The first tactic in that playbook was divide and rule. The British observed the complex local rivalries among Indian kings and deliberately weaponized those conflicts to keep the communities fractured. The defining example occurred at the Battle of Plassey in 1757. Instead of fighting Nawab Siraj-ud-Dowlah outright, the British engineered a backdoor deal with his commander, Mir Jafar, who betrayed the Nawab and handed the rich province of Bengal over to the company. Because direct war is expensive, the British deployed a second tactic, constructing legal and diplomatic traps designed to quietly strip Indian kings of their sovereignty. They introduced the Subsidiary Alliance. This policy forced local rulers to accept and pay for British troops stationed in their own territories, while also requiring a British resident to sit in their courts and monitor their decisions. Then they applied the Doctrine of Lapse. Under this rule, if an Indian king died without a natural-born male heir, the British government immediately stepped in and annexed the entire kingdom. This maneuver explicitly ignored deep-rooted Indian traditions of adopting heirs, allowing the British to seize massive territories on bureaucratic technicalities. These diplomatic traps effectively hollowed out local authority. The Indian kings kept their titles, but the British held all the real power. Once political control was secured, the colonial playbook shifted to its primary objective, the systematic extraction of wealth. Thinkers like R.C. Dutt were among the first to recognize this, formulating an economic theory known as the drain of wealth, to explain exactly how India was being impoverished. Dadabhai Naoroji, an influential Indian intellectual, documented the precise mechanisms the British used to siphon money out of the subcontinent and directly into Britain's economy. This flowchart visualizes the drain. Massive wealth left India through high taxes and cheap raw materials. Simultaneously, extreme tariffs blocked Indian exports, while cheap British goods flooded local markets. Finally, Indian taxes funded massive British military campaigns and colonial infrastructure. The drain of wealth was a meticulously engineered system. It was designed to continuously enrich Britain by directly impoverishing India. The immediate consequence of flooding the market with cheap factory goods was the rapid collapse of traditional Indian industries. Millions of local artisans and weavers lost their livelihoods almost overnight. But the most catastrophic outcome came from prioritizing colonial profit and high taxation over human survival, resulting in horrific, widespread famines. Across the Bengal and Great Famines, nearly 18 million people died. While Indian farmers starved, massive quantities of grain were still being harvested and exported directly to Europe. These millions of deaths were not the result of unavoidable crop failures. They were the direct consequence of a bureaucratic system built to extract profit, regardless of the human cost. A common counter-argument is that the British modernized India by introducing extensive railways, telegraphs, and a wide-reaching postal system. However, this modern infrastructure served a very specific purpose: logistics. The railways and telegraphs were built to transport extracted wealth to the ports faster and to deploy military troops rapidly across the vast territory. Across nearly 2 centuries, British rule defined itself by a severe loss of freedom, deep social divisions, and extreme economic exploitation that funded immense imperial wealth. The colonial playbook successfully dismantled India's vast historical wealth. But the shared trauma of that exploitation awakened a fierce national identity, ultimately lighting the fuse for the massive Indian freedom struggle.